Alright, so you've learned the basics of 2D level building using tile maps and having a character that can jump around in that tile map. That's great, but it might be more interesting if we added some moving platforms to make it more difficult for the character, or to open up new areas. So what we can do is, if you look over here, we have our tile map, which is the entire level. And if you think about it this way, if we did a transform, for example, changing the position of this tile map, it would actually move the whole world, and that's not what we want. But you might ask, well, can we just make a new tile map for a new object that we can transform? And the answer is yes. So if we just click on level here, go down to tilemap.tscn. Remember, this is the node that we created as our paintbrush, sort of the tool that we can use to make as many objects in our game world as we want to. Well, we can add a separate paintbrush, like this. Now, you notice I dragged it to the middle of the level, but that's actually not good practice. So if we click on that new object here, and we see it's right here in the middle, let's change that position to 0, 0, which would be at that top left corner. So go to Transform, Position, Reset. Okay, so now we have tile map 1, which is our whole level, and that has these platforms here, and this tree here, the key here, and then this tile map 2 has nothing yet. If we do the same thing as before, we just draw on some special piece. So I'm going to draw just a platform like this. You might notice that, I don't see my drawing cursor. What's going on? Well, that's because I just had the moving cursor selected. Let's go back to the normal cursor mode. And now you have the object here. So I want to draw it on, say, about here. And then what we would imagine happening is when we play the game, the platform here would move all the way over here, and then move back, and then move there again, and so on, forever and ever. So if I go back to this move button here, I can show you it's actually as easy as just moving or transforming the position of this tile map 2, the second tile map that I created. And it doesn't affect the game world at all. I'm going to undo that position so it's back at 0, 0. And let's rename this just so we're clear about what this is. This is not the whole level. This is moving platform. Now, to make the moving platform move by itself over here and back, we need to add something called an animation. So we'll go adding a node to the moving platform. So we'll have a child node. And that is going to be animation player. When we open the animation player, we have this new tab at the bottom that says animation here, and it asks us what kind of animation we want to make. Just select new. Now, it's a good idea to name your animation according to what you're planning. You could, for example, have this move left, right, and then later move up, down. So you might want to name those two different things. I'm going to name this one left, right, just for ease, because we're just doing this. Now the left-right animation is by default set to be 1 second long. My animation in this case I think would be better to be 4 seconds long. So let's change this number on the right down to up to 4 and press enter, and you can see now we have 4 seconds to work with. The other question is, what are we going to be changing? That's the track. So what do we want to be animated in this time of 4 seconds? Choose add track, property track, and then you choose what you are animating, which is going to be the moving platform. Click OK. And then it says, well, your moving platform is a tile map, and a tile map has all of these settings that we could possibly animate. And a tile map also is part of the Node 2D family, so it also has all of these qualities and these qualities. Well, what we want to do is we want to look for just position, which is in the Node 2D. But keep in mind, there's lots of things that you can animate and change with time. I mean, look at all that. But Node 2D, position, open. And now that means that for this moving platform here, on the right side, on the inspector window, you can see the properties section. We see node 2D, transform, open that up, and you see position. So this number here, if we change this number and we save this number, we tell it to save that number, then what's going to happen is we will be able to modify the location of where it is now. And then if I change the x value less or drag it less, then we can see that this number affects the actual physical location of where it is in space. So let's go down to animation. So first, be sure that you're clicking on the moving platform object, or the object that you want to animate, and click on animation. Now there's an animation tab here which will open up what we just created in the animation player. So we have this open now, but we have actually selected the moving platform. Now, because we have this selected, we have all these moving platform details over here. As I just said, if I move this number to -400, my platform moves over there, which is great. Maybe -300 is actually going to be our end target. That would be a good one. But first, let's reset at 0. So this is the starting place, and we imagine that we want to change it to -300. That's easy. First, in our animation window, make sure that 0 is selected. This is 0 here, not 0.1. Second, make sure that you have your piece in the place that you want it to be at the beginning and at the end of your animation, the same location, if we have a loop. And then over here, click on this little key. This key is called a keyframe. So you just saved that data to that time. And then if we move the time to the end, which is 4, we can click the key again. Now what we're telling Godot is, at the beginning of this animation and at the end of this animation, I want my platform to be here. But at 2, which is halfway through the animation, is really where I want it to be over here. We already decided that -300 on the x-axis is probably a good location. You can also try fooling around with just moving it wherever you want it to, but keep in mind when you manually move it lower or manually move it over, you're probably not keeping the same number on the y-axis. And what will end up happening is in-game, it'll kind of glide up and glide down because you weren't so careful about that. So instead, let's reset that. And then as I said, I would do -300. So that is the midpoint. I need to save that as my midpoint. And as I go from 0 to 2 and then back to 4, it goes on. The last thing to do is to change to loop on and then hit play, and you can see that your animation in the span of 4 seconds will complete and restart. So that is exactly what you would want if you want that platform to be moving and you want to jump on. There's only a couple more things to do. Let's go back to 0 position here. There's only a couple more things to do to make this work in your game. So number 1 is, as long as you have moving platform selected, make sure that you have collision animation selected as on. If you don't have that on, when you jump on the platform, you're going to fall off the platform when it moves, because it won't bring you with it. You want to go with it, as if it has some sort of a friction that drags you along. So that just allows that to happen. And the last thing that you need is to add a script to moving platform to start this animation, because we created a beautiful animation, as we see here, but this animation will not start by itself. It needs to be told to start. So if we go to moving platform, add script, notice that it's asking you to create a script called Tilemap. Let's rename that to moving platform. Click create. And then in this script, we only want to add one line of code in the ready section. The ready section is where the code starts and only loads things once. And we only want it to load to start the animation because the animation is forever. It doesn't have to keep on thinking forever. It just thinks one time, says, hey, start that forever animation, and be done with it. So func ready, and then create a new line right here before the pass. And just click and drag that animation player on there. It makes it super easy. Then press .play, because you're going to select which animation you're going to play. Parentheses, quotes, and the name of your animation. If you get the name of your animation wrong, if you type this wrong at all, it just will not play the animation, and you will see nothing happening in your game. So please check that. But as you can see in my game now, it works perfectly. Let's see if I can make this jump. There we go. And great. I'm ready to move on to the next step, which might be collecting objects or interacting with Area 2D shapes, such as this key. All right, I hope that was helpful.